another video about the integration of mental health and spirituality. You know, it's really hard being a Christian sometimes, and it's really hard living with mental illness, but to combine the two makes it even harder. There are some things that you can't say to a therapist, and there are some things that you can't say to like a pastor or someone in church because a lot of people just won't understand it. And, one of those things is, certain thoughts that you may be having. If you tell, someone in church, they may say, just take authority, or they may say, oh, go to the hospital, because they may not understand it. So they may go either on, to one extreme or the other. And then if you tell, like, a counselor, they'll assume that there's some, like, deep meaning behind certain things, or they'll tell you to go get help or go to the hospital or something. I don't know. Like, people just overreact to things sometimes. But we really need a place to just, like, vent, But the hard part is, like, is it coming from the enemy or from medication or from side effects or just my mind, I had certain thoughts earlier and it made me question. It was like, it felt good to get them out on paper. I journaled about it, but it made me question, because I realized these, part of me feels like these aren't really my thoughts. This is just the enemy trying to destroy me or distract me. But then I said, why do I keep blaming things on the enemy? Maybe it's just, something that I need to work out. Sometimes we blame the enemy. Sometimes it's just things that need to be worked out. Sometimes it's a natural course of, depression or anxiety is to get through these thoughts. We assume that every negative thought is coming from the enemy, but sometimes it's just from ourselves, and then, I don't know, it's hard to tell. I guess each thought you have to kind of evaluate, and then it's like take every thought captive. And I think you should still do that despite the cause of the thoughts. It's important to take the thoughts captive. And it's hard because the flesh is opposite the spirit. So we get in these situations and we want to just like react in the flesh, but we have to actually do the opposite, which is not easy. And so we have to take captive those thoughts. But I think it's also important to sometimes express those thoughts, because if you don't, you end up like me, staying up late at night making videos when I should be sleeping. No, seriously though, you end up, it's hard because they say not to like confess anything, but at the same time, sometimes you need to just let it out. You need to vent. You need to be able to share the thoughts because they're scary sometimes. Someone that's having, thoughts of suicide or thoughts of hurting themselves, or just really anxious thoughts, or someone that's hearing voices, they need a place where they can talk about it. Talking about it, sometimes people, especially in church, say like don't give it more power than it needs to have, but at the same time, I think sometimes we give it more power by keeping it in our heads, because it's like we're embarrassed, or we're like, letting our minds be controlled by those thoughts, whereas sometimes just speaking it out is not as scary anymore. A delusion may not be as scary or upsetting, or hearing a command hallucination may not be as scary or disturbing, just to be able to say it. But it's also a matter of like saying it to the right people. But anyway, as always, I'm always here if you need to talk. And also, so is God and crisis hotlines and stuff like that. But reach out to somebody. Okay? Bye.